video, we're going to cover improving sitting and eating.
Mac and cheese.
And so here, just working on her spine. Yesterday I didn't get the video posted because I worked on her at the chiropractor, but it was really awesome because here in her scoliosis that she has here, Bonnie, that's rude, don't do that. It really loosened up, and I've been working on that for a while. So that was really, really awesome. And one of the big things that I noticed when I was working on her is that her hip, the scoliosis is countering her movements, and so her, stop it please, and so her right hip is hiking up, okay, and so she's bending forward into it, so her body's just countering this movement in her body. And so what I was working on was lifting and teaching her left hip to rotate up so that she could switch positions in her back and give that spine another direction of movement. And so here, going off of that lesson that I was still working on with her yesterday, the goal is to reverse scoliosis through teaching her functional movements, but we got to do it in all situations here. So when you have the ability of the spine, you improve everything. You can improve eating, you improve other milestones that you can't necessarily perform and do, but we're putting it into her system. And so one of the big things that I work on, especially in her spine, is that crawling and that walking. So when she is in those opportunities to do that as much as she can, she's getting the right movements in her body and using the balance and counterbalance versus just sole muscle, because she doesn't have enough muscle to even create movements like that. She just is a very severe type 1, but you can just see the wiggle that she has, the good movement, and all this just attributes to the spine being able to move more, that chest really getting, don't do that, really getting that chest to, or that rib cage to be a lot more flexible. Hey baby, this is my other little girl with spinal muscular atrophy, so I take opportunities to work on her as much as possible. She has more of like a lumbagosis, but so coming here, and you may be wondering what this has to do with eating. Please don't, Nina. But here what I'll do is I'll come in and come up where her head is at and really working on that swallowing function. Hey Justin, could you come grab Nina? Really coming here and getting in the atlas, but giving her head the ability to, come out and in and allow that, allow a more comfortable and just smooth swallow. And we literally had nothing when we finally got diagnosed at the hospital. She ate a little bit at birth and was losing her swallow quite quickly. I was getting concerned because I could only get her to eat like 5 ounces in a day. Justin, can you come grab her? And I just was really getting concerned because she wasn't eating. And I was reading that, babies at a month old should be eating. Justin, can you come grab Christine? Should be eating 27 ounces, and I was only producing like 22 to 25 ounces. And that's because I was pumping, so I knew how much milk I was producing. And so she has come a long way with her eating. It's really just been a little bit at a time. It's been so exciting that we've been able to give her string cheese, and she can just piece away at that a little bit at a time. But the biggest thing that I'm offering here at the head is just more availability to respond with rotation. And working on the head sitting up is a little bit harder, but definitely doable. And what I'm just checking for is just making sure she's got good rotation, and then I'm finding where areas that may be stuck and just offering better rotation there. And also working on the head makes the head lighter, and so part of my thought process behind also the severity of the scoliosis is that her head is creating just a plane that the body can't push back, and so the spine is growing, but it's like it's growing into a ceiling, and so you're also naturally getting that curve. And so by lightening the head, I'm raising the ceiling of where that spine can grow and go. And so that's something that I work on a lot with her too. The BiPAP really gives her a heavy head, and really, just really solidifies the heaviness of the head and solidifies that ceiling. And so when I go in and lighten the head and can allow the spine to stretch, she's able to come out more so out of that scoliosis. And what's really awesome is when you're using the movement lesson technique is that I really see her begin to play with it as I'm really getting into her system. So again, you can really see in this position how, well, you can't see the hip coming up over here, but that hip is coming up and she's really just leaning into it, okay? And so what I want to do is I want to teach this hip to come up, and so that I don't necessarily want her to lean the other way, but I just want to teach that spine that it can move the other way. And so really giving it flexibility. Hopefully that was a better visual. She loves to wiggle. So what's been awesome going to the chiropractor is he's really just addressing the stresses in the spine where it's getting locked up just due to the pressure of her body and just that pull of gravity. One of the biggest things that movement lesson teaches you is how to oppose gravity, how to not just be pulled by it. And it has been a game changer for her ability and things like that. And so this is something that I do with her often. The movement lesson is the foundation of everything that I do. It gives me the resources that I need to be able to know if what I'm doing is supporting her functional movements or not. And right now doing the chiropractor is very much supporting those functional movements. What's different about her going to the chiropractor versus me is I've had the rotation in my system, and so as the chiropractor is going in and readjusting things, I'm able to self-initiate some of those rotational responses because of just the adjustment. But for compromised kids, especially the SMA kids, they just haven't had the rotation to begin with. And so you can be going to the chiropractor and be seeing results, but not as much of a result as you would like to see. And so here going to the chiropractor, and then I'm manually reinforcing that adjustment by teaching her body how to move and rotate with the new availability in her spine. What's really important about movement lessons is that it's really gentle. And I'm not throwing off her balance. I'm not making her unstable. I'm actually adding more stability to her system. And that's one of the reasons why doctors are really amazed with her case, because I get the comment that she appears to be a type 2. Had they not known how she was when we started the SMA, things like that, started the Spinraza, things like that, they would have thought she started out as a type 2, not a very severe and pretty much dead type 1. We were on life support getting the Spinraza. And she has significantly in her ability, she has significantly more ability than any of their SMA kids in her severe condition. And she's a lot more smooth. She doesn't have the contractions. And they really don't know why she's that way, but I know she's that way. It's because I've been doing movement lessons. And it's my dream that every SMA kid has this resource available to them, and it's something that parents can learn it's great to go and do intensives with a practitioner, but at the same time, to really have the most success with this modality is you've got to do the work at home, and you've got to take the time to do it. And what's amazing is I can get more out of her, more strength, more ability in just 30 minutes of doing movement lesson, even as an amateur when I first started, than weeks of therapy, sometimes months and years of therapy, depending on the practitioner that you go to and their advanced skill. But even just when I first started out and was super an amateur, you know, when you touch with rotation, you make changes in the system. Now right there, I don't know if you caught it in the video, but she was leaning more this way, and that has been a huge change and shift in her system to be able to bring that spine over here. As I've stopped worrying so much about the scoliosis and really have focused on bringing functional movement to her system. Honey, that's not modest, don't do that. And really bringing functionality to her body, not just her spine, but all throughout, and working on her in all positions. Our progress has just exploded, more so over the last couple months. I felt like I was hitting a plateau, and movement lesson was working. I didn't know what I was doing, and so I really sat down with Michelle and just tried to go deeper with the modality, because I'm like, there's something I'm missing, there's something other parents are missing, and we've got to figure this out. You know, I had to learn it out of necessity, but other parents, you know, movement lesson doesn't just help SMA, it helps any diagnosis, but you know, I was telling her, I was like, we've got to help parents learn this faster, because you know, we like children, you know, we don't mind learning something that's hard, but we need to see results, we need to see progress. And sometimes movement lesson can be a little bit of a learning curve. I didn't have any other choice. She was so severe in her condition, like even just the feedback I was getting from the doctors, like I didn't have any hope for progress with therapy and things like that. Granted, they didn't know because of the spinraza, but still, even at the same time, because she was so severe and we didn't even know if we could get her off life support. You know, I just wasn't encouraged with the doctor's reactions, and also too, she wouldn't have been able to get off life support without movement lesson, and that was my real testimony builder, is because it literally gave her the ability to breathe on her own, and you know, I watched her in the hospital, she just couldn't do that. And so now here, instead of lifting her, what I'm trying to do is I'm again trying to come into that right hip and rotate it up so she naturally comes out of the scoliosis on her own. It's okay that she goes into it more so, but the fact that she can come out of it is even more beneficial to her. Don't do that, please. And so that's what I've just been working on while we've been talking. You see that she just moves and is eating and things like that. I'll come up here into the, now this is a little more complicated stuff. This isn't necessarily how you would start out as a beginner with movement lesson, things like that. You know, you want to make sure you have the milestone momentums in the system, and so you start by giving the body the absolute horizon, tummy time, rolling over, and that was one thing that drew me in movement lesson, is I could give her all of these movements, even though for one, she was never going to do them in a timely manner, but for two, it didn't matter. I gave it to her in an appropriate developmental time period. Because of movement lesson, she got all of those milestone momentum inputs, and has really just beyond exceeded expectations from anyone of what would be possible for SMA. And tons of kids are doing great on the spinraza, the Vapsaplan. I don't know how to pronounce that one. Anyway, the one that's taken by mouth daily on the Zolgensma. and the kids just doing amazing things on those things. What makes her different from almost every other SMA kids, because there are other SMA families doing the movement lesson, is that she has rotation and weight transfer, and she has had it her whole life, and it just has really allowed her to excel and move and experience progress in a way that other SMA kids are not experiencing progress. And I have yet to see her lose any movements. I've talked to lots of parents, and one of their frustrations is that they see their SMA kids progress, but then they digress. Just the kids can't be strong enough. They can't. It's just too hard, and that's because they're focusing on muscle-based movement, where I'm focusing on skeletal-based movement, and it makes all the difference for endurance, ability, and just function in general. What's really important is that I'm not poking at her. You can kind of see how I'm here with her. I'm like this, but I'm equally touching her on all parts of the body. I'm just focusing really on specific areas of the spine to help rotate and bring them out of that scoliosis. So she's leaning into it, and so I'm just prompting the body to know what to do when it wants to come out of it instead of being stuck in the position. And that's one of the biggest things movement lesson has allowed her to do, is to not be stuck. You may wonder, what does working on the back have to do with eating better? The body all works together, and so I've done a ton of head work up here, at the same time coming in and improving that ability of the spine. Allows her to not have to focus so much on balancing the head, things of that nature, and so it's making that muscle structure more available for what it's meant to do, which is swallowing versus supporting the body. And so by teaching her body where to support itself, which is down here in the hips, not even in the spine, she really supports herself a lot here in the spine, where it really needs to come down here into the hips. Again, it releases tension and responsibility from the neck area that it was never meant to have. It just needed to help her eat, and so that's what we're doing, is delegating function and mobility where it's meant to function versus having stresses in the system. And that won't make sense to you now, but as you get more into movement lesson and pursue it, it will make more and more sense. You can definitely get the free download, how 5 Steps to Epic Success with Movement Lesson and Milestone Momentum. That is a place where I work, and I'm very involved there, but I'm also focusing my niche personally into movement lesson and SMA, really getting into that. And so that's where I really specialize. I could help any kid with any diagnosis, because my kids are here with SMA. I've taken a lot of time to study SMA and how it's working on the body. I have a book that I'm working on for Julia, and just my experience of the last 5 years SMA. It's not too late. It's never too late to give your child the gift of movement. And so in that book, he just explained the things that I have done throughout her life, not just movement lesson, but the things I've done to support her body with movement lesson as a foundation to really give her the mobility and things that she has. I use essential oils, muscle activation, a little bit of water time, though I'm very careful with that. Too much water time can do more harm to your nesting system than good, and so you have to be really, really careful with the water time. And so you could get that. You could get access to the first few chapters of the book for free. I'm not done with the book, and so I'd love your feedback as far as what you're liking or what you want to hear more of in the book. I really want it to be a resource for parents to just have hope in this diagnosis. So that link will also be in the description. I'm just going to work on her. I'm just going to keep working on her. This is what I'm doing. Actually, I probably won't keep working on her because I've got some other videos I need to record. But that was a great step for today. Sometimes I get her for only 5 minutes, other times it's 10, but other times it's an hour. But every little bit makes a huge difference, and so keep working with your kids and have hope in the impossible. Thanks, guys.